In one of the most explosive and emotional scenes ever to unfold in South Africa's parliament, the widow of late Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa confronted President Cyril Ramaphosa and other high-ranking ANC officials, squarely accusing them of having blood on their hands. In the country, they watched in disbelief as chaos unfolded right in front of cameras, with security struggling to maintain order while at the same time opposition parties demanded that her voice be heard. The tension had been building for weeks. Ever since investigators uncovered new evidence in the ongoing probe into Nathi Mthethwa's mysterious death in Paris, the country has been on edge. Reports indicate that classified communications, secret bank transactions, and leaked surveillance footage may link several high-ranking government figures to a coordinated cover-up surrounding the ambassador's murder. But no one expected the widow to take matters into her own hands so publicly and so powerfully. It was a routine parliamentary session, until it wasn't. It was while Ramaphosa was addressing MPs about ongoing corruption allegations that the widow suddenly stood up from the public gallery, escorted by two aides. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she clutched a brown folder reportedly containing documents relating to her late husband's case. Raw emotion in her voice, she shouted across the chamber, "You all must be arrested. You know what you did to my husband. You silenced him because he refused to be part of your lies. But his blood cries for justice." Gasps echoed across the floor. Ministers froze in disbelief. Within seconds, security officers rushed forward, but opposition members, particularly those from the EFFDA, rose in protest, shouting, "Leave her. Let her speak." The scene descended into chaos. Lawmakers yelled over one another. Some ANC MPs attempted to shield the president while others pleaded for calm. But the widow, tears streaming down her face, continued. "He told me everything before he left for Paris. He said, if anything happens to him, look to those who pretend to serve the people but serve only their pockets. I kept quiet long enough. No more." Her words struck deep, reverberating through the chamber and beyond the walls of Parliament. Ramaphosa's reaction and the silence that followed were telling. President Ramaphosa, visibly shaken, was seen whispering to his aides. His usually composed demeanor faltered for a moment as cameras zoomed in on his tense expression. Several MPs later described him as visibly disturbed and uncharacteristically speechless. While the speaker attempted to restore order, the widow refused to leave. She dropped the folder she had been holding, scattering papers across the chamber. Opposition MPs picked up several of the documents, which reportedly contained copies of email exchanges, bank transfers, and coded correspondences between political figures and foreign contacts. Moments later, the speaker called for an emergency adjournment, but the damage had been done. Within minutes, the clips of the confrontation went viral on all forms of social media. Hashtags #justice, #Ramaphosa must answer, and #Parliament Erupts seemed to trend worldwide. At the gates of Parliament, hundreds of protesters gathered outside, shouting, "No justice, no peace," while banners of the late ambassador's face flooded the streets. Many South Africans took to social media to express their sadness and anger, demanding full disclosure in the case and accusing the government of concealing its findings. Political analysts say this may be the most serious credibility crisis President Ramaphosa has faced since he came into power. The widow's confrontation has emboldened whistleblowers and revived calls for an independent international inquiry into the death. What happened today is not just some personal outburst, it is symbolic of a nation that has been betrayed. This country is tired of lies, tired of scandals, and tired of leaders who operate above accountability. This could trigger a political earthquake. The death of Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa in Paris had been reported initially as a tragic accident. But from the beginning, inconsistencies made people raise questions. Witnesses contradicted police reports, surveillance footage went missing, and confidential embassy files were erased days after his death. There were rumors that Mthethwa had been preparing to expose a secret financial network that tied certain South African officials to foreign interests and illicit deals. Days before his death, he reportedly told colleagues he feared for his life. Now, with the widow's public accusations, those suspicions have reignited with new ferocity. Sources close to the investigation said documents she carried could implicate several government insiders, even some close to the presidency. In the hours following the confrontation, Parliament issued a terse statement calling the incident regrettable but understandable in the emotional context. But that is not enough to satisfy the public. The groups of civil society, activists, and even ANC members are asking for Ramaphosa to address the nation directly and explain what his administration knows about the death. The widow has reportedly gone into protective custody after multiple threats. Her lawyers confirmed she intends to release all the documents in her possession if anything happens to her. What began as one woman's cry for justice has now become a defining political moment in the history of South Africa. Parliament, once seen as a symbol of democratic order, turned into a stage for truth, grief, and fury. Whether this confrontation leads to accountability or yet another cover-up remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the truth about Nathi Mthethwa's death will no longer stay buried, and South Africa's leaders will be forced to face the questions they have avoided for so long. More than a political scandal, this is a moral